Group Mem Zayin at the very bottom. As a matter of fact, we'll start the line before the rest. They was explaining that the inyonim pnimi, like chokhmah and bina, and that which actually belongs to the world, functioning aspects in the world, and similarly functioning koiches in the human being, are really directly representative of the makif and the soiviv and the supreme koiches, like rotzen and oimek. And it brings down the illustration for that is that the Gemara said in Talmud Hamikdash was standing, then Hashem's court was greater, when Hamikdash was not standing, it's lesser. What is the difference? Because Talmud Hamikdash was standing, there was the rotzen, there was the attention, the interest in the world was on level of rotzen. It was something which Hashem really wanted, because it represented his principles, and therefore the actual bestowing, the actual bracha that came to the world was much greater, and this is why the world was much richer. It says that there was the life, in the physical life in the world was infinitely more pleasant and more supportive and so forth.
Was more supportive than what?
Huh?
I didn't catch this. The life in the world was more
much supportive, much more supportive. Because there was blessing, there was unlimited blessing.
More than it would have been if, more than what? I didn't catch it.
More than other times. Other times you have to labor to bring home your meager necessities. And this was a time when everyone has the full supply on his own,
abundance,
from his own resources.
I don't know when exactly this was, but it was Ishtach had Geffen, Ishtach.
The time was Hamikdash.
Time of the Beis Hamikdash, each person had his own resources.
Is it true that it one time, okay, we're stuck, it's not real.
Focus.
Okay, I said we start a line before the end. Shall I silog horotzin, because there was a lack of rotzin. Rotzin is a koyach, but it is very difficult to demonstrate it and translate it, because it's not something which is tangible from our perspective. But we all know, even on our own level, in our own life, The expression in Chassidus says that everyone has the rotzein lichyus. Everyone has the rotzein, the will to live. The rotzein lichyus is not merely that he doesn't want to see the opposite of life, the suffering of life. That's not what rotzein lichyus. Rotzein lichyus means he has a positive an interest. That rotzein lichyus is what motivates him in all of his activities, even those things which are not supporting elements. Rotzein lichyus is what gets a person up in the morning when the sun, when daylight comes. Rotzein lichyus is what gets a person out to the outside to appreciate the grace of the world and so forth. This is rotzein lichyus.
Even going to sleep at night.
Yeah, even going to sleep. So the point that we are focusing on and is going to be completed soon, when there is Shilago Rotzein, when the Rotzein, the world is no longer represented, so to speak, Hashem's grace and Hashem's glory, Kedusha. So therefore there was less Rotzein in the world, and therefore the world itself was reduced. Shagolam, at the end of the second line from the bottom, Shagoram Silug Ho'eva Chayas. That caused that there was reduced of oil and chayas into the world, of divine oil and chayas. Bisman Gilui HaRotzin, but in a time when there was Gilui HaRotzin, when Rotzin was in full expression and full representation, Nim Shach Tois V'Soy B'Bchinas Oy Pnimi. So then there was Tois V'Soy, there was additional oil. Because the principle of additional Tois V'Soy and Yontom and so forth, additional oil beyond that which is necessary for the world, for the sustenance of the world. And this Tois V'Soy was B'Bchinas Oy Pnimi, not just a peripheral and supreme level, but an Oy Pnimi, an absorbable type of oil, something that the world was able to process and acclimate to.
What is exactly toisfus?
Additional oil. Okay, the last words on that page. Harei, thus we see, from this presentation, we see the Bechinas Oil HaSoivev. That this Bechina, this is the crux of the whole discussion. This Bechina, this aspect, what's called Oil HaSoivev, the oil that surrounds the world, that is above the world, but encompasses the world. This oil hasoivev is supreme, is superior to the world. The world cannot fully appreciate it and fully understand it, because it's a superior oil. But nonetheless, it is oil hasoivev. The word soivev means surrounding, which means, yes, it is superior, but it surrounds the world. It encompasses the world. It's not something which is completely remote from world. It's oil that is interested in the world only on the soivev, only on a supervisory level. So this oil hasoivev be'emes, in truth, nimtzo, is present b'chol ho'ilomis v'hishtalshelus. Is present in all the worlds and the entire hishtalshelus, entire changing down of the worlds. Even though this is oil hasoivev, it is divine oil which is superior to world.
To remain on this call, press 1.
And yet it permeates and it is present in the entire world. This is what gives it its real support. U'k'maimer, and as it says, Leis asar pnimi. There is not a place, Leis asar, there is not a place, pnimi, that is vacant of him. There is not a place in the entire creation, entire existence, that is vacant, absent from Hashem. Hashem himself. Upoyel, and it has an effect, b'chol ho'ilomis, in all worlds. B'bechinas, in what way is it poyel, is it have an effect on all the worlds? In a pair of his havus, of that which brings them into being, v'hagilui, and gilui in that which comes to expression, that it comes from them. The world themselves, as a worldly presence, expresses divinity, the divine superior elements through the world. It is obvious that this is a divine world, even though it's a world. It's a world. The gam and like similarly, as a result of this soivev, bechinas teisves oiris. There is the bechina of teisves oiris, an increase in oir. An increase in oir means giving the world each kind of oil, but an excess, like we said before, that he has the worldly support in abundance, where one does not need the support and the services of another. This is not natural to the world. Natural to the world is that people depend upon each other. Each one has its own resources, and a full cycle of resources. This is not natural. This is not a worldly perception. This is a super world. This comes from a higher, it's called Sevet, from a higher a level. It's important to recognize that although our seichel perceives worldly concepts, we are constantly reviewing again a certain principle. There is a worldly way of explaining what light is. Light is really a divine gift. The world initially was dark because that's what the nature of the world is. It's a physical entity and therefore it's dark. You know it by touch. And Hashem said, let there be light, and there was light. Let there be light, and there was light is an expression of bringing divine presence into the world. Let me elaborate on this a little bit. If you go and you touch something in the world, that touch proves to you, tells you, yes, there is an object there. But if you do not touch it, and it is remote from you, but you just see it, that sighting, without having any effect, without having even presenting itself, saying, this is what I stand for. We see the entire, as I said, the entire sphere of existence. On what basis is this presented to us? World is a finite entity. World is a creation. On what basis are we recognizing, are we accepting, citing something which is remote completely, which is not touchable, which is not reachable from our position? And the answer is that we recognize that yes, there are things that got created, which are on our level, but then the divine presence is superior to that. And Hashem gave us His presence on the superior level. So that this remote object, like the sky and the moon, the sun, this which is completely remote from us, we cannot reach it. Where is it? Where is it? Where does it exist? It exists in the divine presence. It's as real to us as our own table. This is the Seviv, the recognition that the entire existence is still encompassed by the divine truth. And we cannot lose that. And this is why whatever is within eyesight, this is what, let there be a light. You should be able to see the entire world. This is not a worldly experience. This is a super worldly experience.
The seeing.
And
the seeing.
The seeing, yes. And therefore, and this comes from the Seviv, because there is a divine encompassment, an unlimited encompassment of all existence. And therefore, we can accept that this existence, even though it is, we cannot prove it by touch.
And
not only we cannot prove it, we can't even dream of reaching it.
This is within the Emunah. I'm just saying somebody.
This is more than Emunah. This we can observe it. We live with this. This is the Chokhmah.
Right. But it's because if somebody doesn't, his face is dormant, it's not really active, so he doesn't. But this is generally speaking.
This is why, right?
It's also very pleasurable, when you in that type of
I didn't call in. I thought I did call in.
feeling that you look at it.
You did call in.
Huh?
Yeah, you did call in.
Okay. So that, this is the point of the whole discussion. There is Oyer HaSoiviv, supreme divine presence, which is higher than the world completely, is still encompassing the world. And it has an effect on the world. And the world is cognizant and conscious of it. And this is why there could be toisves oiris. In the world there could be an increase of oir. Let me repeat this toisves oiris concept. Toisves oiris means there is an abundance in the world which is beyond worldly conceptualization. An abundance that you, from world perspective, you don't even dream about it. This abundance is representative of the divine interest in the world, the divine presence in the world. Okay, now we continue on the paragraph that begins in Kuf Mem Ches. However, B'chol Zeh, despite all this meaning, despite all this, that there was an increase, an effect in the world from the Oyer HaSeviv. Nonetheless, Hamshoch as Hoyer Makiv Upiolosoi, the Hamshoch, the bringing forth, the Oyer Makiv, the surrounding Oyer, Upiolosoi, and its effect on the world. Hu Behelem. It's still Behelem, it's still on a concealed level.
Sorry, we didn't get that.
The Oyer Makiv, you just said that Oyer Makiv, the surrounding Oyer.
Yeah.
It does have an effect on the world,
Yeah.
but it is Behelem. It is in a concealed manner.
So
One second.
you're not talking about.
No, one second. We have to finish a sentence. What does it mean it's a concealed level? We said before that we open our eyes and we look around and we look into the far distance, which is not reachable. We can't even surmise the distance in the world. And we said that what enables us to see it and what makes it real to us is due to the Oyer HaSeviv, to the divine presence. This is not how we normally interpret it. It is a human approach. You say, well, I see the world. The world itself is this big. We do not realize that this excessive, the supreme expanse of world is not a worldly phenomenon. We do not perceive it that way. The reason we do not perceive it that way is because we are limited. We focus anything on the world. It's part of the world that we touch. This one I can touch, this I cannot touch, but it's all the same. It's all the same reality. So this Oyer HaSeviv, the divine presence, even though this is what actually provides and enables that there should be this an extreme expense in the world itself. It is Behelem. We do not see it as a divine presence. We so to speak, limit our interpretation. This is all part of the world. And we do not ask ourselves, if it's part of the world, what's holding it together? What is it about?
We're saying there's a perception of world that is superworldly, or we're saying all our perception is contingent on the worldly observation?
Our perception, because we do not see the Lakutis Behelem, we don't see it. We interpret it as being worldly.
Oh, so we have this space over here, so we have greater space, and then we have the sky.
That's right.
Continuum.
It's all the same thing.
Continuum. Okay.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So the Oyer HaMakif remains Behelem. the oil makib, the divine oil, that really enables everything and inspires everything, we're oblivious to it. Let's go back to a phenomenon that we discussed in those few days. We said that a child learns in cheder things which are above his intellect. To the Gemara, to the point that we said, learns Gemara and so forth. And the real reason that he is able to learn and understand it is because he relates to his Rebbe. He understands it because his Rebbe understands it. We discussed this quite extensively. The question is, does the child recognize it? Does the child recognize it? That he understands it because his Rebbe understands it? He doesn't recognize it. To him, it's the same logic and the same understanding as he understands his own toys. And the proof is in the fact, when children play, young children play, what is the theme of their game? They play. What is the plan of the game? Rabbi and they have classroom, they have teachers, and they play out in their own world that which occurs in school, in the yeshiva. So this union that they play out in their own world, that which occurs in yeshiva, tells you that they not really appreciate what happens in yeshiva. They don't realize that the reason they understand what this Rebbe teaches is because the Rebbe teaches it to them, because this is really higher than their own seichel. It's an extension of their own seichel. It is in fact presented to them at their own level, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, and words and so forth, and they think this is all it is. They don't realize that really what they understand there is much higher, superior to what they normally experience. But the reason they're able to understand it is because they're connected to their Rebbe, to their teacher, as we discussed in the last few days. There's a famous story that we mentioned many times, that there was that the Rebbe RASHAB, and he had an older brother, Razov. They were young children, 6, 7 years old, I don't know exactly the age. And they were playing in the courtyard, and the Rebbe Maharash observed them playing. And what was the game that they were playing? They played Rebbe Chosid. They played Rebbe Chosid. That was their game. So they observed Rebbe Chosid. Rebbe Chosid is a supreme, super element. Even on the human level, it is the highest level of human intellect, and this is what they played. To them, this was an extension of their childish life. They didn't realize that they appreciated it because they were part of this court and the Rebbe Chosid in environment. So they're playing the Rebbe Chosid. This is the meaning of the words here. that the oil HaSoviv, as much as it has an effect, it is still behelem. It is behelem means it is concealed. You do not recognize that this is a divine presence. You see it as an extension of the same world in which you live, in which you function. I want to extend upon this. We should think the following. It is the Meibushin's presence in the world that provides for all the creatures in the world. The reason that there is sufficient food and all resources going around for every creature in the world is because of the divine presence in the world. And every individual gets his support and his needs due to divine presence that encompasses him also, includes him also. And yet, there is a constant tendency. There's a constant tendency on the part of the human being to take something that belongs to somebody else. Even to the extent of Gneva and Zela and so forth. Where are you going? What is that for? Because he thinks that what he gets is due to a worldly phenomenon, not due to the divine phenomenon. He loses sight of this fundamental truth, that the supply in the world is that which comes from the God, because it's Meibushin's world. Except everyone gets it in his own pathway, and if you are a carpenter, you're going to get it through your means. If you are a tailor, you're going to get it your means. If you are a chazan, you'll get it through your means. Everybody has it to his own contribution to the world. But this is the Meibushin's bracha, and he loses sight of that. To him, it is there because it's part of his world. And that's why he covets, he desires somebody else's property. Clearly, the Ohr Eliki is behelem, is concealed. Let's continue. In the middle of the top line of this paragraph that begins here. She'al shum zeh, where due to this fact that it is behelem, nikro soibev u'makif. This is why it is called soibev, surrounding. Makif is basically the same thing. It's called soibev, just hovering above. The hagam, for although shezehu yikir hamokoi ra'asivo l'chol dov, even though that this is the principal source, the divine presence, the divine moker, the makif, is the principal source, and sibo, not only because of sibo, the cause for everything. Everything is rooted, even the pnimi is rooted in the makif. Mikom mokoim, yet still nikro makif lavad. We refer to it as makif, just surrounded. Why surrounding? This is the source for everything. Lefi shehu behelem, because it is behelem, because it is concealed.
So the main difference, that's the question I wanted to ask before, and you said no.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand the essential difference between makif and sovereign.
I don't know the difference.
What?
There's no difference. It's the same thing. It's a different term.
Wait.
I want to point out the following thing. You have a home, a house. It comes with many times. You have a house. If the house is situated in a normal place, like on Earth, and you look at the house, you observe the structure of the house, you observe the design of the house, and say, oh, this is the dining room, this is the living room, this is the bedroom, and you begin to project what furnishings you're going to put in these rooms. These furnishings come from an outside source. They're not built in the house. And yet, it is the house that solicits, that demands that you bring in these furnishings. Because it is the makif of the house that gives meaning to the furnishings.